We're going to be looking at setting up a access point on a MikroTik. So we've got a standalone access point and we've got a MikroTik router. We're going to do this two different ways. We're going to do this as a static, so a standalone access point, which will have the SSID configured on it, and then that will connect to a port on the router, and then this access point then will just forward on the traffic of all the devices that connect to it to the router. Second one's going to be using CAPsMAN, which is designed for obviously deploying multiple access points, but I just thought this thing is a good way to know what to do and to start, because it does give you that ability to scale up quite quickly if you needed to swap access points, everything like that. So and it keeps all the configuration in one place. So yeah, keeping this simple, we're going to do management and user data is going to be on the same VLAN, on the same network, sorry. We're not going to do multiple VLANs, so whatever the IP address that you manage your access point is going to be the same as what the client gets. So this is very much for your home setup. But yeah, let's get into it. So I'm using a hex, just a small router, so there's no Wi-Fi on this device, even though it has a Wi-Fi menu, of course, but there's no Wi-Fi cards on here. And then we're going to use a CAP AX as my Wi-Fi AP. So let's just find that here. As you can see, I've just factory reset this one, so no config. So if you need to know how to do that, I've got a video about how to start, build a configuration on a MikroTik from scratch, basic setup for your home, and that covers that in there. But if not, you just basically go into the if you have already used the configuration, just reset configuration and just make sure you untick that default, because we don't want any config on there. There is actually, as worth knowing, a option for CAPsMAN mode, which basically applies the enough config to it for it to become a CAPsMAN AP. But again, we're not going to use that because we like to just configure everything ourselves. We're going to start by using the access point as a standalone device. So effectively, you can plug it into any router. It doesn't have to be a MikroTik, and then you configure all the SSID and everything on here. So we'll start by creating our bridge, just the one. And we just call that LAN bridge. Okay, just turn spanning tree off. Ports. Now we're going to add our Ether 1 to our LAN bridge, and then this may kick us off because we've just added the port that we're connecting to it from to the bridge. It might change the MAC address, and then we're going to add our two wireless interfaces. Okay. Other point of note: I'm using version 7. If you've got an earlier version using version 6, this is done differently. It's changed now for the Wi-Fi part. So if you are having problems with that one, please let me know, and then I can do a separate video for that. But I'm just going to assume that everyone's on the latest, because that's how it's done nowadays. So now we've got our bridge set up, we can go ahead and give ourselves an IP address for the management, because at the moment I'm connecting to it by the MAC address. So DHCP client, we stick that on the bridge. Okay, and that should pick one up from my router. Good. And like I mentioned, I want to do an IP config. I'll show you I'm on that network. There you go there. This network here, if you've seen in my other videos, I just have this one to access this device remotely, so I don't actually lose access to the device when playing around with its routing or anything like that. Okay, so that we can now close this, and then we can access it via its IP address. Oh yeah, because I set the password. There you go. Good. Let's give it a name as well. So system identity for its host name, just call it test AP01. Okay, now let's jump into our wireless config. So one thing to note, if you've used it on version 6 before, is Wi-Fi 1 used to always be the 2.4 interface, and then the wireless 2 was the 5 gig, whereas this is the other way around now. So this one's the 5 gig one now. And similarly, used to configure everything within the main interface itself, whereas now it's very much like what we'll show you when we come to do the CAPsMAN. We do have this all these different options where we can then individual menus. So I'm going to show you the simplest way for now, because we'll go into the other way when we do the CAPsMAN, so hopefully you can then decide yourself. So I just always will rename these for a bit of clarity. So 2G configuration, we're not going to set the configuration because that would be from this menu, so we're going to give it the SSID of just test SSID dash 2G, and I always recommend having different SSIDs for each frequency. Set your the country you're in. Just make sure that you don't propagate on a signal that won't allow your devices to connect. We'll leave the rest of it blank. Now channel is the tricky bit, because the channel frequencies are specified in the actual RF frequencies. So what I'm going to do, we jump on my website. There's the article which has this tutorial in for what I'm going to show you now. So I'll put a link in the description because then it's just a step-by-step guide. So what I've done here is the easiest way to do this. We can either do it as I've shown you here, where we manually put in each frequency, which is fine for 2.4 because there's only 3 we want to worry about. But obviously 5, we've got the ideal ones to use is the UNNI 1 and the UNII 3. So the ones in the middle is basically the DFS one. So again, I won't go into too much about that now. If you're interested, I do have an article which I'll also link in the description about the frequencies here. So there's obviously the ones that we want to use for 1, 6, and 11 for 2.4, and for 5 gig this first set, which is this UNNI1, and then this is all the DFS, which is basically radar detection. You don't want to use these because anything, if it detects anything, it will stop propagating, and then wait for sort of up to a minute. So you're constantly losing connection if there's something it's detecting that you don't know about that's non-Wi-Fi related. So always best to stick to these ones. So bearing that in mind, I'll go back to here. I've got the range for the first one and the range for the third one, and then I've got a range for the combined ones. Sorry, these are individual channels and these are combined. So if you wanted to select a channel, particularly say you're in a really congested area but you've got control over the frequencies, excuse me, you may want to actually specify the channel you want, but here you specify the range or the group of channels and it will pick the best one depending. Like I said, for 2.4 there's obviously only 3, so hopefully that makes some sense. I can give you some more information on that if you needed. So let's just go ahead and copy these ones across. Just have to copy and paste into the notepad because it copies across better. So if we go into our access point and then we go open up a terminal, place that in there, and then we look on here, you can see, there we go. Now we can actually select our channels. So I'm going to use all of the 5 gig available. Band, we got AX, so we're going to use AX. Channel width, I'd always recommend 20 gigahertz. You can use 40 if it's if you're home and you haven't got much else going on, but yeah, it's always I think 20 gigahertz is plenty enough, so it does the job. And then security is the last one, so we're just going to use we're going to use our PSK WAP2 encryption CCMP, and then we're just going to set our passphrase as my favorite non-secured password. Hello world 123. Okay, there we go, and then you'll see the settings come up here. So band, I said at the beginning, didn't I, that 1 was 5 gig because that's changed. I got them wrong myself. There we go. Okay, now we go ahead and do the 5-5G. Okay, again, test SSID-5G. Country is Australia. We leave the rest the same. Again, channel. So this is where we need to add our 2.4 ones in. So I'm going to do the range. So we let it choose out of the ones it should use. Paste that back in our terminal. Bound, we can use N. No, sorry, we can use AX. Can't we? Because we've got an AX. Always 20 megahertz when it comes to 2.4. That's just a hard and fast rule. Keep clicking that. Authentication, we're going to use again PSK2. Passphrase. So the only thing to watch out for if you're doing it this way, obviously we've set the same security for both SSIDs twice. I could make a typo in here and you'd find that one SSID is connected and the other isn't, and you wouldn't, it'd be, you know, a pain to work out why. Always have a... No, I don't. Try again. There you go. Make sure it doesn't. Oh, it's got rid of everything. Fantastic. Okay. Okay, good. Right. Let's go ahead and enable these. Right. So they're now propagating. We've already added them into our bridge. So they're now on the same network as our Ether 1. So whatever our Ether 1 gets, as I mentioned, so you can pick this up and plug it into your, you know, you've got a, if you don't have a MikroTik router, but you want a MikroTik access point, you could just plug this directly into any router. And now, so I'm going to pull up my phone. There we go. Test SSID 5G and 2G. Let's go 5G. Hello world. 1, 2, 3. Connect. Checking the connection. Let's look at our Wi-Fi registration. There we go, connected. Okay, and then if we jump back on my router and we go to IP DHCP server leases, and then there I am, Android. Okay, and just while we're here, we'll check the 2.4. We want to do a thorough check. There you go. It's giving me a different IP address. That doesn't matter. We're connected. So hopefully that was simple enough. There's nothing fancy on here. I've just got literally a LAN bridge which has ports. My PC that I'm plugged into is on 3. 2 is the access point. It's just on the one. There we go. The one of one VLAN. So there's nothing fancy there. There's no VLANing or anything done. This is one subnet. So yeah, that's a very sort of high level basic setup. So next we're going to move on to CAPsMAN. So before we go across to that, what we will do is we're going to reset our config on our access point. So we go system, reset configuration, no default. Okay, so CAPsMAN. CAPsMAN, we're going to start on our router, so which is going to be our controller, so our hex in our case. Bring up the Wi-Fi menu. As you can see, there's no Wi-Fi interfaces in here because this doesn't have any Wi-Fi in it. But this will be populated with our remote ones once we get it. Once we connect that access point to here. So let's start with creating our security on our channel, and then ultimately our configuration profiles. So in security, we're just going to do the same as we did for that standalone example. As you can see, the menus look the same, except where we did that on the actual interface itself, whereas this time we're going to do it, create these individual profiles and then apply those profiles all together, which you can do for that standalone, but I just wanted to give you the example of doing both. So this is probably the preferred way because it's more scalable and you can, you know, assign additional access points as we want them. So yeah, jump back onto here to that website article where I can grab this complete list now. Again, I'll just paste that into here, copy it again, bring up a terminal. There we go. So now you can see I've got the complete list, which includes all the 2.4 ones, the 1 to 1, 6, 11, and it's got the range there, and then it's got the individual ones for 5 gig that I can use, and then the 2 individual ranges plus the complete range there, the non-DFS ones. So I'm going to use that one and that one for this example. So we jump onto configuration. We're going to make a 2.4 and a 5G one. So we go 2G, mode AP, SSID test, SSID dash 2G. Country is going to be Austria, close. Channel, we're going to go, this is our, which one was this? 2G, so this is going to be 2G auto, security profile 1. Okay, and now we're going to do the same for the 5G. Okay, mode AP, test, SSID, that's 5G, country, Australia. Okay, channel, this time it's going to be the non-DFS range, so it's all the available ones we want to use. Security 1, okay that. Okay, now we go over to remote CAP at the end here, click CAPsMAN. This is where we're going to tell it to be a CAPsMAN server, and we want it to advertise to any available access points on this LAN bridge, because as I mentioned before, we're keeping this simple. Everything, management and data, is all going to be on the same network. Okay, that's that done, and then we should see an access point appear in there once we configure it. So now we can jump onto that recently reset AP. Okay, let's close these menus, give it password. Okay, so we can either now going to create a bridge, turn spanning tree off, although it's not relevant really, but it's best practice for me. LAN bridge. Okay, and this has 2 Ethernet interfaces, which we're just going to put in here, just in case we do need to connect something to the other one. You probably could just set this on the Ether one, but I always like to do bridges because it means you can then easily add interfaces as we need them. So then DHCP client, we're just going to add that on that bridge, so we get an IP address to access it from. Okay, so we can close this and we can open it again, but this time access it via that IP. Set the password. Okay. Now what we need to do on here is click CAP and enable that on our wireless menu. This is what we want to discover on that LAN bridge, and we're going to request that certificate. Okay. On each of these interfaces, we're going to specify that we want it to be managed via CAPsMAN. Okay, and also we want to set the data path for the bridge we want the client to be associated with. That means all the SSID traffic will get put into that bridge, because we're keeping it nice and simple. Okay, now if we jump back onto here, there we go, there's my access point appeared there, and we have now our 2 interfaces which we didn't have before. So remember, Wi-Fi 1 is our 5G, so we could just name this test AP-5G. Okay, and again this one is going to be test AP-2G. Configuration, we want the 2G one. Okay, and now we can just enable these. Okay, we jump back on our AP and we should see, there we go. So you can see it's given the SSIDs and pick the channels. Okay, let's go ahead and test configuration. So jumping back on the phone. Okay, there we go. Oh, I've spelled SSID wrong on the 5G one. Let's go for the 2.4. Hello world 1, 2, 3. Connecting appeared on my MikroTik. Connected. Okay, all good. And let's just do the incorrect spelt 5G1. See on here, it's changed me to the different interface, the 5G interfaces, and we're connected. Okay, there we go. So now all we need to do, if we decided we needed more access points, we just exactly just repeat this step here, where we go ahead and just give it IP address effectively, tell the CAP where to discover, and then assign these to be managed by CAPsMAN. And away you go. And then it will channel plan and it will assign the SSIDs as we want. So it can expand your network quite easily. But hopefully that's been of some interest and use to people. Obviously CAPsMAN, there's a lot more you can do with it, and there's a lot of different ways of we have different SSID and multiple SSIDs we could have on different networks or VLANs. So I'll perhaps do a video later on about a bit more detail of that, because yeah, it's definitely worth managing your network properly. So if you, even your home network, you really don't want like your everything has to connect to the internet nowadays, doesn't it? So you all your IoT devices, you really want those separate, because they're obviously more vulnerable. So you don't want those on your network with all your other, your laptop, your phone, things like that. And everything's on Wi-Fi, so you want to try and control that somehow. So the easiest way is to have a sort of a home SSID and a IoT one. And then if you want to go a step further, then you have a guest one as well, which is something I'd also recommend, because people come around your house and go, "Oh, what's your Wi-Fi code?" And you kind of want to be a bit, even if you know them, you don't know what the devices they're bringing onto your network. But again, we could be getting a bit too carried away there. So anyway, please comment on this video if you've got any questions, or click on the link to take you to the website, which will give you a step-by-step guide. And yeah, if you've got any other ideas for videos, please reach out. If not, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.